Hello and welcome to the news desk at 10 on the Nta News24. We're reaching you live from Abuja. I am Olajide Bello. First, the headlines. President Tinubu calls on world leaders to deepen relations among member states of United Nations.
We must renew our focus on conflict prevention.
Nigeria solicits support of Finland in its pursuit of a permanent seat at the United Nations Security Council. Central Bank of Nigeria raises interest rate to 27.25%.
We're also concerned about the growing level of fiscal deficit.
President Tinubu approves revision of consolidated public service salary structure. President Bola Tinubu has called on world leaders to deepen relations among member states of the United Nations in line with the principles of inclusivity, equality and cooperation. Represented by Vice President Kashim Shettima, the President made the call while addressing world leaders during the general debate of the ongoing 79th session of the United Nations General Assembly at the UN headquarters in New York, United States. State House correspondent Abdurrahman Jibrila reports.
This is the climax of the annual global event, countries giving their national statements, and it's the turn of Nigeria.
Process of corruption.
Vice President Kashim Shettima standing in for President Bola Tinubu with a well-scripted national statement and a rich content focusing on contemporary global challenges and practical recommendations. First, Nigeria reminded the world leaders that the United Nations stands for inclusiveness anchored on the tripod of peace, sustainable development, and human rights.
Addressing the root causes of conflict is often the first step towards providing long-term solutions. Clearly, some of the root causes of conflict are social in nature, including poverty, hunger, ignorance, inequality, and exclusion, as well as other forms of injustice.
Expressing worry about the main objectives of the United Nations and how it could sustain the global body's relevance and resilience, lamenting the return of unconstitutional changes of government in some African countries.
Conflict resolution is the main reason why the UN exists, but the task of prevention becomes all the more difficult when conflict becomes normalized, when even the condemnation of violence and civilian casualties and calls for a ceasefire are somehow regarded as controversial. As we emphasize at the Abuja high-level ministerial meeting, we must renew our focus on conflict prevention.
Calling for reforms in the international financial architecture and a transparent multilateral trading system, hoping the adoption of the Pact for the Future will change the narrative, asking the UN to prioritize debt forgiveness for Nigeria and other developing countries from creditors and multilateral financial institutions.
Climate change is a driver of insecurity, which also poses a veritable challenge to sustainable development. A few weeks ago, large areas of my country were inundated by seasonal flood waters, including one of our largest cities, Maiduguri, in the northeast. Other parts of Nigeria also experienced similar tragedies, occasioning the loss of lives and property. We need not remind ourselves to remain faithful to the implementation of the commitments that we all gave voluntarily at the various COP meetings. Failure to do so is merely to postpone the inevitable. No country is immune from the effects of climate change.
Other world leaders at the session made statements aimed at addressing global concerns.
I stand before you in these whirlwinds convinced of two overriding truths. First, the state of our world is unsustainable. We can't go on like these. And second, the challenges we face are solvable. But that requires us to make sure the mechanisms of international problem solving actually solve problems.
It is time to invest more in building trust and practicing dialogue. Constant dialogue is a powerful weapon for all governments have in their hands.
Today, the United States and Vietnam are partners and friends. And it's proof that even from the horrors of war, there's a way forward. Things can get better.
The Nigeria's statement insisted on bold reforms in the United Nations Security Council with a view to giving Nigeria and other African countries permanent seats at the council. From New York, Abrahaman Jibrila, Nta News.
Nigeria has solicited the support of Finland in its pursuit of a permanent seat at the United Nations Security Council. State House correspondent Abdurrahman Jibrila reports that Vice President Kashim Shettima at a meeting with the President of the Republic of Finland, Alexander Stubb, on the sidelines of the ongoing 79th session of the United Nations General Assembly in New York, said the support has become necessary given Finland's role as a European and NATO member and considering the role Nigeria has played over the years in entrenching democratic values and peaceful cohesion. Nigeria has already indicated interest in the UN's Secretary Council seat, following calls for reforms and expansion of the Council by some UN member countries. President Stubb of Finland expressed total support for the expansion and reconstruction of the UN Security Council, saying the dynamics of the modern world demand such change. In a related development at the meeting between Vice President Shettima and African Union Chairperson Musa Faki Mohammed, Vice President Kashim Shettima stressed the need for consolidation of democracy as well as peaceful collaborations. The Vice President indicated Nigeria's interest in hosting the African Central Bank, maintaining that Africa has come of age to host one of AU chairperson. Thanked Nigeria for its role in stabilizing Africa, adding that the AU will continue to ensure that African stability and peace remain a priority. And Nigeria's First Lady, Nta News24, has called on stakeholders across the globe to develop innovative approaches to fight both tuberculosis and antimicrobial resistance AMR in a strategic and integrated manner that targets prevention of new infections. She was speaking in New York at an event organized by the Stop TB Partnership on the margins of the 79th United Nations General Assembly. State House correspondent Adeni Taiwo reports.
As the global and national Stop TB champion, Nigeria's First Lady Nta is expected to lend a voice and resources to the campaign in order to stop the spread of tuberculosis around the world. She is here on that duty as the Stop TB Partnership rallies stakeholders in New York in a renewed bid to break the resistance of the scourge. Her keynote address acknowledges that tuberculosis, with its drug-resistant nature, is a tough nut, which she ever believes is not beyond the will and resources of the world to crack.
We have the tools, the knowledge, and the expertise to end TB and AMR by 2030. Addressing TB and AMR together is not just the smart way, it is the best and only way. Our methods must include improving awareness, education on the dangers of drug-resistant TB, and promoting the appropriate use of antibiotics. We must also prioritize research in order to develop new tools, treatments, and new vaccines that can outpace the evolving threat of AMR.
In Nigeria, where the intervention of a pet project, Renewed Hope Initiative, has led to the procurement of 25 TB molecular diagnostics machines and reagents that can conduct over 15,000 tests, the race to change the tuberculosis narrative ahead of 2030 is on.
I'm also informed that this support has motivated the manufacturers and global distributors together with their partners in Nigeria, to donate an additional 50 TB lamps to aid the country in the fight against tuberculosis. In addition, First Ladies of various states in Nigeria, who double as Stop TB champions, and I will be embarking on a nationwide TB advocacy to accelerate improved diagnosis and prompt treatment.
To fully move the needle on tuberculosis and AMR, the Executive Director, Stop TB Partnership, Jessica Ditio, harped on the need for strong collaboration, noting that the battle cannot be won in isolation.
What is clear from the submission of Nigeria's First Lady and that of other speakers is that a multi-sectorial approach involving a lot of research and advocacy is required to achieve the objective of ending tuberculosis by 2030. And indeed, that is what Nigerians and the rest of the world are expecting in order to achieve a future where tuberculosis is no longer a threat. From New York, Nta News24.